He chose not to have the surgery. He chose to rest and relax and hope it goes away. And then he
took a look at Gilmore, and if we got Gilmore, we win in the division. I feel like, you know what I mean? I feel like Stephon Gilmore.
Richard Rodgers. He was with our team over the last couple of years. But this is about our fourth time picking him up. What does that mean for...
Welcome to another episode of Bird Gang Nation Sports Talk. I'm your host, Bird Gang 31. And today we bring back another special guest, Mr. Gate City himself. How you doing today, my guy?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Appreciate you having me on, man. What's up, Cerebral NFL fans? How's everybody doing? Steve, Gate City Sports Channel. You guys know the saying. You can call me Gate. You can call me Stat Sheet Steve. You can call me Steve. I don't care what you call me. Just don't call me late to dinner.
I like that. Stat Sheet Steve, man. So, man, we're here, game 2 preseason. You know, give me your take. What's going to happen tonight, Mr. Gate City?
It's hard to say. Hard to say with the new coaching staff exactly what's going to happen. But I do expect that we're going to see a little more rep from the first team. I think the real question becomes, is game 2 treated the way game 3 used to be treated? So are we going to see the starters playing like the first half of a football game potentially into a series into the third quarter, or is this just like that kind of that second game the way it traditionally is, where you get it, about a quarter, maybe you get a drive into the second quarter, but it's a much shorter limited window thing. I'll say this: I expect to get more than 2 drives out of Jalen Hurts in the starting offense this time.
They have to. They definitely have to, man. Like I said, I'm hoping to see at least a halftime, because if you think about it from last year, the Stars went the third preseason game. They went at least to the third quarter. Yeah. And I know they're not going to push it that far out. And I doubt any of these guys really going to be playing next week. So we got to at least get these guys out to halftime. They need some extended playing time before we get to this regular season. I agree. Some people think that the whole joint practice thing is kind of substituting for that. But I don't think there's any substitution besides like real game action on the field.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of big moments here. Like to begin with, it seems like we're going to march out in our entire starting offensive unit tonight. Looks like Devonta Smith's going to get a few reps tonight. Greg Ward Jr. is probably going to be in. Jalen Reagor's probably going to be in, right? Ertz and Goddard splitting reps, but it's really the offensive line that interests me. Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, Kelsey, Sayamalu, Jordan Mailata, like that looks like it's going to be the starting unit tonight. And that's the first time that we're going to have, these pieces together in a while. We had them to joint practices with the Patriots, but is Miles Sanders going to actually play tonight, right? To me, these are pretty big storylines, because it's time to get these guys into actual football shape. It's time to get some continuity from the offense, even if you're running really vanilla stuff that isn't going to represent what you're doing again. It's still a matter of like timing. Like, it doesn't matter if your scheme's going to be different. A timing route's still a timing route, right? So a comeback, a curl, a hitch, a dig, an out route, those things are timing based. Getting reps with Jalen Hurts with these receivers, it's going to matter, man. And like Devonta Smith is back, right? It's going to be real interesting, man. It's going to be real interesting. and how long, how much play they give it to start letting it kind of, to kind of come to fruition, if you will.
Yeah, I definitely want to see Devonta get some catches out there. I don't want to see him, even if we went to halftime, I only want to see Devonta probably in there for like a quarter. He don't need to do the full service thing, with that knee, just coming off that knee thing. I don't want him getting banged up. I think we all know what Devonta Smith is and what he can do. Give us a little show in the first beginning of the first quarter. Go out there, make a couple of catches, make everybody happy, and then go and sit down and chill out for the rest of the night.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see because, like I said, we're not going to learn a lot about scheme here. I mean, you can make a few determinations about, me, man. I'm always looking for 2 running back sets. I'm looking for that 20, 21, 22, and 23 personnel. Yeah. If I was the coach, I'd be out there looking like Shanahan running a lot of 2-back sets. I do think, Sirianni's not going to be Shanahan. We're going to run into that extent. But I do expect that we will utilize these running backs in unique ways. And we saw this early in camp, right? Like, they weren't getting the production they wanted out of the slot. They wanted a more explosive element to the slot receiver, and they felt like they weren't getting it early in camp from guys like Rager, right? They weren't getting it. Obviously, Greg Ward Jr. does his job. Greg Ward Jr. is a great slot conversion guy, right? Sure-handed, dependable. He's going to be where he's supposed to be. But he's not. He doesn't have that explosive element, per se, with the ball in his hands. So what did Sirianni do? He's like, okay, y'all want to mess around? I'll go 2-back sets, and I'll put Huntley out there. I'll put Kenneth Gainwell out there. I'll put Boston Scott out there. Oh, and just so you know, I'll also take a guy that was a running back. I'll make him into a receiver for a little bit of time so I can get this out of my offense. And I'll have Adrian Killins, even though he got cut already. I'll have Adrian Killins out there doing this. And, I think we already see these little small adaptations from Nick Sirianni to get what he wants out of his offense, which is one of the major criticisms I had about Doug, because I do think Doug was an exceptional players coach. He could rally the troops better than most coaches can. But I did wonder sometimes, man, what you want your offense to look like. Are you really exhausting everything on the roster to make sure you get what you want? I do feel like there were times where he lacked, some of the imagination. Maybe he took too much on last year with not really having a traditional offensive coordinator, right? Just kind of okay, you don't want to give me the guy I want to hire as my offensive coordinator, then we're going to go about things this way. And I think things like that, where you see where Nick Sirianni is adapting the offense because he has a coach by committee ordeal going on here with, he's got, he's got everyone from Kevin Patullo designing the passing game concepts. He's got, a guy that's experienced making, calling plays out there, and, Shane Steichen is the offensive coordinator. Then you got Brian Johnson, the quarterback coach, who I love calling Brady for some reason, but his name's Brian Johnson, not Brady.
Right.
But, they got Brian Johnson out there who's, Brian Johnson did some stuff in college. I loved what Brian Johnson did in college at Florida because, I don't know exactly whose system it was, but I just love the way that Florida utilized playmakers in space. So I think there's more of a committee approach to Sirianni, and I think we see some of that play out at times, even though it's practice and it's joint practice, right? It's a preseason game, right? You got to take all of it with a little bit of a grain of salt, of course, but at the same time, it's kind of okay, there are little details you can pick out, right? Little things you can see.
Yeah. To answer, what's his name? 3 hours to go, 2 hours to go, 1 hour to go. He said, when should we see Dickerson? I don't think you're going to see him until mid-season, if you see him at all.
You're not going to see Dickerson for probably quite some time. I mean, I did see that he had gear, so he's not, he's not playing. He's not even, but I did see him with some gear. So I don't know if that was just being assigned to him, although they're already fitted a long time ago for that stuff. So I don't know what was going on with why he had that. But my gut instinct on Landon Dickerson is that unless he gets back to practice next week, you will not see him in September. And I think it'd be very doubtful you see him in October until at least mid-October, because conditioning has to happen. There's a lot of things that has to happen between now and then. I'm sure the young man's learning the playbook and stuff like that, but there are some things when it comes to syncing and timing and things you have to be there. You have to physically do it, and that takes time. So, I don't know that he'll be an immediate contributor to the offense, but incredibly talented young man. As a young man that I think once he finally gets his chance to show what he can do, is going to be special, man. I mean, we're talking about, you don't have, Brandon Brooks has got a longer arms and stuff than him, but we're talking about a physical player to the Brandon Brooks level of ability, which is special. Guys, even you heard some of the reporting around Brandon Brooks back in the Texans camp where dudes were saying like, man, this dude is stonewalling JJ Watt and a few people. Like this dude's pretty special. And this is not a guy that we should know his name. And yet we do. And it's crazy to me that the Texans had to have known this internally and still letting him go. Still let Philly end up getting Brandon Brooks, which is turned out to be one of the best free agent signings we've made in this franchise's history.
Yeah, and I don't think they're gonna let him on because they know once they give him a little taste of being in there, he ain't coming back out. So I think they're gonna make sure that he's totally healed, before they even give him that inkling, that little, okay, here you go, we're gonna try you out a little bit. You're gonna be all or nothing, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna wait till he's fully gone because I think he can be, a transcendent talent, out there at the lineman position, either at guard or center. I think he can do both of them and play at a high level with both of those positions. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, look, he's an incredibly talented young man. I mean, I've watched film on him. Your biggest concern with this young man is the fact that we've had 4 separate years where injuries have occurred, although there was almost a 2-year duration of time in between one of those, those 3rd and 4th injuries. But he's already working on a couple ACL injuries, things like that, to make you a little concerned about his health. But in terms of like turning on film and watching the X's and O's, I mean, the kid was incredible. I mean,
yes.
I don't particularly like rooting for guys that played for Florida State at one point, although he ended up at Alabama. I'm an NC State guy. I'm not a really big fan of Florida State. Rest in peace, Bobby Bowden. But, I'm not a big guy, when it comes to Florida State. But I knew about this young man in high school,
Oh, wow.
So I've known about him for a long time. And, this kid's played all along the offensive line. He was a tackle at Florida State. Then he became a guard at Alabama, then became a center. I mean, the guy's really bounced around pretty much everywhere on the line. I mean, I don't know that you'd see him as a tackle in the NFL just because he does have shorter arms. It's like 32-inch or so arms, a little over that. So, I mean, it's not really the arm length you want to see out of your tackle. That's a little Andre Dillard-ish, where you have shorter arms. And I think his are even shorter than Dillard, to be honest. But still, he's incredibly talented. He's definitely one of the more talented offensive linemen I've watched in quite some time and run film on. Like, I don't know. I didn't know too much about Quentin Nelson coming out. I mean, I knew Notre Dame and I knew a little bit about him. And I say like I was completely void on what he was, but I didn't know that the talent level Quentin. I knew he was a good football player. I know this dude's going to become probably the best guard or one of the best top 3 guards in the league. I didn't see that coming, but to me, that's what I hear a lot of scouts say is that this kid has the physical abilities of a guy that you haven't seen since Quentin Nelson coming into the league.
I've heard that too, and like I said, I watched him here in Alabama play. When that boy's on the field, he moves men. He moves men, and that's one thing he does do. He clears holes. He definitely does a great job pass blocking. So, like I said, towards the end of the season, what I'm saying, or if we, emergency situation, someone get hurt or something like that, knock on wood, hoping that doesn't happen. Then we'll see him come out. And then once he gets out there, though, I don't think he's leaving that field. He's gonna be starting from here on out. Unless he gets hurt. So, Richie says, "Are you excited? Nervous? Excitement?"
I'm not nervous. I mean, preseason games don't really make me nervous, to be quite honest. But I am excited to see what's going to happen. Right? I want to see how these guys perform. We can get it, Richie. I'll give you where I'm excited to see things and what I want to see, if you will. Okay. And to begin with, I want to see Reagor used in a way that makes sense to use him. I know they can't tip too much from the offense. I want to see Reagor on some of those shorter developing things that get him the ball in space. I'd love to see Reagor give them a little different look, make them think Rager's out of the game, and all of a sudden Rager's in the backfield. I would love to see them utilize Jalen Reagor in a way that's somewhat semblant of what they're going to do come the regular season without giving away exact scheme and things like that. The plays
rounds.
Yeah, things like that. I'd like to see them, used in ways that you're honestly going to use them in season. And I'd like to see Reagor play a little bit. I mean, I know because of the conditioning and stuff like that, they opted not to play him quite as many snaps last week. I think this week, Rager's got to play a little bit, man. We got to see Reagor play for a while. Outside of Reagor, I'm really excited to see that back end of the roster battle, man, because I think a lot of guys made an assumption that Travis Fulgham was just going to walk away with this competition. I put him on my original 53 last Saturday. I did my original 53, and I had Fulgham. Lo and behold, man, here comes JJ like he does every August, playing well. And I think what people got to keep in mind, he has a clean slate with the new coaching staff. Mm-hmm. So you can't say like, well, he does this every August. They're going to know this. Like, no, not necessarily. they might know this, but they've never seen this. And he's coming on. So, and I also think to some extent, you're always going to be skeptical of JJ. But at the same time, we have to have some faith that the coaching staff knows how to develop players. And JJ's at least a willing guy. Like, he's willing to take coaching. He's willing to try to put in the effort. So, I mean, to me, I want to see JJ make a play in this game. I really want to see JJ Arcega-Whiteside show what he's been showing in practice, because we don't get to see it. Man, I have been searching for a freaking video clip of JJ making a play because I keep hearing about it, but I can find Rager. I can find Smith early in camp. I can find, Quez is all over Twitter, making plays. I couldn't find anything with JJ. I'm hearing it. I'm hearing the reports. I'm not seeing them. I would love to see JJ be what JJ was supposed to be, which was a slightly more athletic version of an Alshon Jeffrey. I want to see this dude go up and take the ball away from somebody. I want to see him beat up on the corner physically. Like, hey, dude, cool, I can't separate from you. You know what you can't do to me? You can't get body position on me because I'm 6'3", 6'4", 225, and I'm just stronger than you are. I want to see JJ. It's not about him catching one or two passes. Like, no, I want to see JJ out there trucking dudes. Like, and not just in the running game, run blocking. I want to see him with the ball in his hands looking like he did his rookie year in preseason. The dude had a 100-yard receiving game on a shortened game, 3 quarters. It's like, dude, what happened to that guy that everyone was so hyped about? He looked so good in preseason. They were talking about the Eagles had probably one of the best top 5 wide receiver corps in all of 2019. And then slowly but surely that eroded away because of older guys getting injured. But, it was like, man, like there was one point our wide receiver core was not talked about like it is today. And I think there's a lot to be excited about. But seeing Fulgham emerge, right? I think Fulgham's overall talent, I think he's a more talented player than JJ is. But I also think he's highly inconsistent. Like, a dude can't just come out and look like a top 10 wide receiver in the league for 4 weeks and then you just disappear without – you got to ask questions, man. Like, hey, dude, how do you go from this crazy end of the spectrum to this crazy end of the spectrum? Like, dude, what's happening? Come on, man. Like, you could be such a vital piece to an offense. Like, Detroit gave up on you. We have not. Don't treat us like we're Detroit. We're down here talking about biting kneecaps and that crazy nonsense.
Did Detroit draft him?
Fifth round the same year that JJ got drafted, I think. 5th or 6th round. 5th or 6th round the same year that JJ got drafted.
Okay.
So
he's
an ODU kid. He came out of Old Dominion, and I'm pretty sure that Jalen probably knows a little bit about him because, he wasn't a widely recruited guy, and to be quite honest, like he kind of stepped in for one of the guys that went to the Colts. They had a guy, I can't think who it was from the Colts. One of the receivers on the Colts was at ODU. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head right now, but he was like a star at ODU. And then Fulgham was kind of stepping in for him because Fulgham was like a freshman or sophomore when this guy was like a junior or senior. And Fulgham kind of stepped in and was having some production, and he looked like a pretty talented version. Fulgham has the talent. This is not an issue of talent with Fulgham. It's not like he can't play. Yeah, it's a consistency thing. I do fear that the one thing that this young man has been criticized about is practice habits, and that concerns the crap out of me because the one thing I don't think this coaching staff will mess around about is you not giving your all in practice. I think that'll get you cut. That's what concerns me about Fulgham is that is this just an issue of consistency? Like, okay, he's just not executing the play, or is this an issue of effort? Because if it's an issue of effort, it's probably going to get you cut with this coaching staff. But if it's an issue of consistency, they might look at the ceiling and say, this dude's ceiling, like we're keeping him on here. But I do think that battle between JJ Arcega-Whiteside and Travis Fulgham is far from over, man. I think that thing is far from over. I think that's going to be one of the really good battles going all the way through until cutdown day, to be honest. Do they keep 5 receivers? Do they keep 6? Is there a surprise cut and a surprise addition to the roster? Like,
Mhm.
you know, John Hightower. I know you asked me backstage about John Hightower.
Yeah.
I think it's a little too little late for him. I mean, honestly, like, it's one of those things where, Nick Sirianni made this statement about, hey, I value competition. The dudes that come out here and compete are the guys that, you know what I mean, that are going to matter, the guys that are going to get, they're going to get put on this roster.
Mhm.
The thing is, I don't think Hightower's been any worse than the other guys. He just hasn't been available. So, like, how do you
Mhm.
look your guys in the eyes and say that I chose the guys that were competing the best when this guy hasn't been out here in forever? Like, I really hope Hightower's active tonight, but I don't think he is. From what I heard, I don't think Hightower's active. I hope for his sake he is, because I think time's getting really short for Hightower, and it's not
Yeah.
like Hightower can't contribute. Hightower's a vertical stretcher; he can stretch the field vertically.
He gets
You know,
open. You got to
yes,
catch
I
the
mean
ball. That's
that's
his
that's
problem.
the thing, and he can separate. He definitely can create separation from corners, but I do think at some point, man, like it's kind of like, how do you look your guys in the eyes and talk about competition if one guy's clearly being outcompeted by the other guys because he's just not available? It's an issue of availability right now with Hightower.
You don't think just because we drafted him just last year, though, that be in his favor on making the roster this year? Because he was, what, a 5th-round pick last year?
Yeah, no, I don't think his draft status is high enough to warrant that. Not a 5th-round
Yeah.
pick. And if he was like a 4th-round pick, a round earlier, might be able to get by with that, saying like, okay, look, we're going to hold 6 receivers and keep Hightower because we're not going to cut a 4th-round pick 2 years. But I don't think a 5th-round pick you're going to give that kind of consideration. And then also, I wonder about Hightower, like special teams fit. Like, Hightower's a really good kick returner, but we have so many guys that can return kicks. Jason Huntley's phenomenal at it. He's trying to fight to get away on this roster, right? You look at a guy like, they have the rookie out of Memphis out there. He's returning kicks right now. So, and right now, from what I understand, is that Kenneth Gainwell is the guy who's leading the kick return, battle. Then you got, Quez Watkins, I think could easily return kicks for you as a kick returner. Like, I just don't know that. I don't know that he would have a defined role as a special teams player. If you're going to be the 5th or 6th receiver on a football team, you better give me something like a gunner, kick returner, punt returner. You're going to have to do something, man. Like, or I can't see how they keep you on.
I did hear they're letting Smith do some punt return back there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want him back there punt returning, man. I think we have enough speedsters that we can keep him off that one there. What do you think about that? He'll be dangerous, obviously, but I'd rather even have Rager back there at punt return than I'd rather have Smith back there at punt return, just for the value.
I mean, the way I look at it is, I don't think they're going to really play the kid there unless there's an emergency. I think they're just trying to get him there because you don't know what's going to happen in the course of a season. Or they might just decide, like, look, man, we need someone who has more consistent hands and someone who can make somebody miss and make a play because we need to flip field position. We just, we need to do everything we can do to put ourselves in position to win games. I think it's really the only consideration you give a guy like, a top 10 pick out there fielding punts. It's dangerous, man. It's a really dangerous thing, especially for an underweight guy. I mean, I don't think Devonta Smith lacks toughness. I think sometimes people they seem to make it out just because he's 165 pounds that he doesn't have toughness, and that's not what I see from him on the film. He's plenty of tough.
Oh yeah,
but physics are physics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get trucked by a 230-pound linebacker at 165 pounds, and this guy's got a full head of steam, and you didn't fair catch the ball.
Yeah, he didn't fair catch the ball, man. You're gonna get blasted.
Exactly.
Blasted, man. And I don't think we need to have him out there like that. You know what I'm saying? Not saying he's not tough at all. If you ask him, he probably would want to be out there. You probably want to be in all special teams if you put him out there. But, just for the longevity of his career and the simple fact that we want him healthy this whole season, I don't think we should do it. Like you said, unless it's a major, we need a touchdown in the last couple seconds of the game, then throw him back like we did D-Jax. But other than that, he can be the backup punt returner. So whoever the punt returner is, if he gets hurt, then, go ahead and do it.
A break in case of emergency. Yeah, you break in case of emergency type player.
Right. J-Jaw, 4 catches, 1 touchdown, 50 yards tonight. If that happens, man, if J-Jaw ever even scores a touchdown, I'll be excited.
Yeah, I mean, that would be an exciting stat line. I think the problem you get is you really need to work Rager, right? I don't think we're going to see a lot of Devonta Smith tonight. I mean, it seems like he's going to play from what I'm hearing, but at the same time, like I see that a couple of possessions, and you're probably going to pull him same way you did Rager the last game. So if you're going to play Rager extensively, and you need to see you know what I'm saying? You need to see Fulgham. You need to see all these guys play. It's kind of like, okay, where do they fit in? I guess, I guess you could try to get a guy like JJ in a little bit on the first team. Because, you don't need to see that much from Greg Ward Jr. You know what Greg Ward Jr. is going to give you, right? Like, we're not really sitting back here trying to evaluate Greg Ward Jr. We got a pretty good idea of what Greg Ward Jr. can give this offense and what he can't. But, a guy like JJ, when you're talking about potentially keeping 6 wide receivers or him beating out somebody as the 5th wide receiver, then, yeah, you do need to see this guy play, right? I mean, we need to see that he can either separate or separation won't matter and he can just steal the ball.
Catch the ball, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, to be truthful, it's not like Fulgham is separating, really. Fulgham's not really burning guys. Fulgham's just got strong hands,
Right, yeah.
He's got strong hands. You look at the Pittsburgh game, he wasn't separating. He was just taking the ball away. Like, cool, I can out jump you. I'm stronger. I'm bigger. I'm going to go take the ball.
Let's see. Does Hightower draw the safety over with his speed? Yeah. Hightower, like I said, he got open a lot. He just couldn't catch the ball. And that's my only gripe on Hightower is he just wasn't catching the ball. He'll be open. He got separation, but he's not, he was supposed to be one of the better route runners coming out of the draft last year anyway. And he's
he's a fairly good route runner. I definitely think he creates separation from corners. Maybe a team gives you a safety look just because you're going to have a fairly athletic corner to stay in the hip pocket of a receiver like Hightower. But also at the same time, man, he's demonstrated very suspect hands. So I don't know. I mean, my inclination is that, yes, you'd probably see some, whether it's a cover 1 or a cover 2 or quarters is 2 safeties, but at the same time, it's quarters of the field. So unless you have a cover 1 or like a cover 1, cover 3, or a cover 2 concept out there, cover 6, something like that, you're probably not going to have safety help over them. But yeah, I mean, they probably would lend you a little bit there. But it's a matter of like, what can the other receivers do? Because if a guy like Watkins or a guy like Hightower takes safety help over, can somebody else work the middle of the field and destroy teams? Right?
Yeah. You know what else I want to see? I want to see Stoll as fullback. They kept talking about it. I want to see him line up at fullback and maybe do some power runs in there. That'd be something nice to see today, don't you think? Yeah,
of course. I mean, I don't know how much they're going to run the ball just because, I don't know what they're hoping to learn, from running the ball. I think they know we can run block. But it would be nice to see like at least a series where you establish a little momentum from running the football. You know what I mean? Like establish a little bit of a rhythm there and just show that like this is going to be kind of a part of our offense, a staple. We're going to get some early down runs in. We're going to, get stuff like that going. But I don't know that they're going to really be, just like the first preseason game, they ran the ball here and there, but it wasn't,
base eye, maybe some base eye, king or queen out there, what I'm saying, offset with Stoll, just to see what he looks like in that fullback position. Can he actually block, do, the fullback flat route side of the backfield, see if that kind of works out a little bit for him. I just think it'd be nice to see him because I don't think we seen him too much tight end, did we? Last game, I don't know if he even played tight end, did he?
Which player? I'm sorry.
Jack Stoll.
I think he did take some snaps. I think he did, but Jack Stoll is going to get some snaps tonight. I'm pretty sure. Tyree Jackson down. Jason Kroom if he's active, he's coming back from being shooken up a little bit, and he hasn't played much recently. So, I mean, I do think you're gonna see Stoll get some play. Stoll was a guy that early on looked like probably a guy that could sneak onto the roster, especially the theory was is if something happens with Ertz, Jack he's the next inline tight end. He's the next Y tight end, right? He's got a little F flex capability, an F tight end flex kind of capability where you can use him like a USEC, whatever his name is out in San Francisco. They're fullback, H-back kind of, you can use him like Kittle a little bit. He can do those type of things, but he's definitely more of an inline guy, right? He's not fully to Goddard's ability as an F tight end, but you could definitely kind of use him as a lead block kind of thing. You can do some stuff with him because he's probably the next guy up that's a fairly good blocker. That's where, I hate to bring the name up, but losing Togiai. Noah Togiai was a pretty good blocking tight end. And I'll be honest, I'll be fair. I can't criticize Eagles because when I did my 53-man roster last year, I didn't put Togi on. I thought he was a practice squad guy, and I
Mhm.
didn't think anyone would claim him. He got claimed.
You got
I was
claimed.
nice saw the film.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, we got to definitely see what he can do. I'm excited to see what's up with McPherson tonight. See if he can lock down some people. Today with some of them Patriot receivers out there. Maybe play him a good bit. Maybe like the whole third quarter. You know, get him
Yeah.
going to some extended work out there. To see what we really got with him. And then I want to see maybe like some Mike Epps play some safety. Give him a lot of safety play tonight. Kayvon,
Yeah.
too. I want to see Kayvon come out there, and I want him to play a little bit extra because I heard he had a pretty decent week this week when he was going against giving Cam Newton the business, but backing it up. So that was good.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like, because, I put something up on Twitter, and I was having a little fun. I mentioned who I was predicting would probably be the starting defense tonight, and I said that I think we're going to hear a lot of, and Cam goes down. And then someone's like, well, he kind of checks it down a lot, so we might not hear that as much as you think.
Right.
Like, well, it's still kind of a win. I mean, if my man is afraid to get hit and he's just checking it down to the running backs and to the tight ends, and hey, then you play press, and you get after him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Cam, man, I don't know. I don't know if I'm taking it the wrong way, but I don't think Cam's as good as he used to be. I just think he done dropped off. The injuries kind of got to him. I noticed he got a little weird for a while. He started wearing, doing weird stuff, and next thing you know, his game has not been, normal Cam. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think he can take the pound like he used to, and his accuracy is not. I don't think he was ever a pure passer. Obviously, he wasn't the most accurate quarterback ever. But at the same time, I feel like that's taking a step back. Plus, his running game taking a step back from all the injuries. So, he got to watch out because Matt Jones might be taking that spot this year.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, from what I heard, is Mac Jones was fairly impressive in camp. I heard he made some rookie mistakes, and you know what? Credit Jalen Hurts, because even the Patriot reporters, the beat reporters for the Patriots were saying, out of all these quarterbacks in camp, including Joe Flacco, including Cam Newton, who are two veteran quarterbacks, both those guys I think got 10 plus years in the league. They said that Jalen Hurts was clearly the best quarterback in camp.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that's not coming from our guys, it's coming from their guys.
Yeah, what I hear is that Jalen Hurts is really doing a great job. Like if you had to put those last 4 games last year, if say he never played those games coming into this season, I think it'll be more of like wait and find out for me. But since he did play those games and the way he's been working all off season, he's been getting more accurate. He's been, he's working with quarterback coaches, gurus, other quarterbacks in the league, other receivers in the league, our receivers. He's been working around with a lot of people. And they said that Jalen Hurts, even all of our team, the whole team has been saying that they think Jalen Hurts can be that, franchise quarterback for us this year. So hopefully those guys are right.
Yeah, I mean, look, no one ultimately knows until there's scheme involved and there's, adjustments made by defensive coordinators and, all those things happen. But the positives I've seen from Jalen Hurts is that he answered the question about his arm strength. Although, even last year, because, 2020 Vision is someone I know he was pretty bullish on Jalen Hurts. He liked Jalen Hurts a lot as, coming out of Oklahoma. And I said, look, I don't think that he's very nuanced in terms of reading coverage, but I thought even back then, I said, look, I think he's got the arm strength to hit 90% of the throws. I mean, there's a couple things here and there that you only see guys like Aaron Rodgers and guys like that hit, and, Mahomes and the Wilsons hit. But I felt like even back then he had the arm strength to hit 90% of all passes. And then this year when I assessed it, I said, look, I think he's crept up even more. I think he's 95% of the throws. It's not like his arm strength has changed, but I just think that his understanding of concepts has now allowed him to be able to make the throws on more routes, more consistently. Because he really struggled across the middle. He was not a middle of the field thrower.
But he had a couple of good ones, didn't he? Remember that one, that gunner over the middle straight to, who was it? Was it Quez, or is either Quez or Rager? One of the guys.
He hit Quez on one where he was kind of, I think he was avoiding pressure, and he threw across the middle.
Up.
No, it's not. I think people are judging that more so on the throws he doesn't make. Like when there's things clearly breaking across the middle open, and like he just wasn't playing on time with the offense, which he's playing on time with the offense now. Like, that's a major improvement we see. And like I said, we don't know 100% yet. I mean, just trying to let the kid play out and see where he's at. I mean, it's all you can really do with a quarterback. Because so much of playing quarterback isn't your arm strength. So much of playing quarterback,
mental.
isn't even necessarily within your grasp, your control. You can't predict, and you can't help your offensive line missing assignments, right? You can't help and you can't predict if a guy doesn't know where to be on the route stem within the progressions you have. The guy's not there at the right time. He's killing you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that, that go on there that it goes past just playing, just being a quarterback. Like it's, a guy like Hurts, he can do some things like, everyone wants that pocket quarterback until things aren't perfect. The play breaks down and the guy can't do anything.
Yeah.
And then you're wanting a McNabb, then you're wanting a Cunningham, then you're wanting, even, a Brett Favre, a guy that can move, Steve Young, a guy that can move the pocket and can avoid and elude pressure. We know what happened to Steve Young. I don't know if that was the greatest example of 7 concussions, but still,
I feel like they be acting a lot from him, like as if every starting quarterback is just perfectly throwing. Like even the best ones out there, man, they miss hit targets. They're not 100%. They don't have the greatest percentage. Like 60% is what the league average for a starting quarterback.
He hit Goddard. There was one play, and I think it was the Arizona game. And I still think it was the best throw that he made on an NFL level. It was a far hash throw on an out route. So it's a timing route, far hash, and he threw a straight. It was a strike right to Dallas Goedert's hands. It was a complete strike to him. I mean, that's an NFL level throw. And that's when I said, hey, it ain't an arm strength issue here. This young man won't be successful, and he won't be a failure because of arm strength. That's not the issue here. That's not where he needs to improve, right? It's not an issue of that, right? Most of the time when dudes at the NFL level look like they lack arm strength, sometimes you get a Jeff Garcia situation where a dude just truly doesn't have a good arm. A lot of times it's bad technique.
Yeah.
Something happens in the play that messes up their technique, and then they can't put enough on the ball and they get picked off. Look at Nick Mullins. Why did Nick Mullins get picked off trying to target Killins? Right?
You think
some of it is arm strength. Nick Mullins is not a super strong thrower, but he could have made that throw if it was on time. If he got his feet planted right and it was on time, he probably hits that throw. Killins is probably very close to a touchdown, if not a touchdown on that play.
Yeah.
It's about the window in time in which you hit that throw. And
do you think he's going to play better today? Or do you think you're going to see the same Nick Mullins out there?
I think it's very important for Nick Mullins to play well today. I think Nick Mullins, especially with a guy like Tyree Jackson potentially going on IR, he's got to make the initial 53 to be on IR. But, Nick Mullins could be a guy that might end up carrying 3 quarterbacks now, because maybe that opens something up to carry 3 quarterbacks. But he's got to give you a reason to carry 3 quarterbacks on your active roster. And I'm not a huge fan of carrying 3 quarterbacks, because the way I look at it is anytime you get to your 3rd quarterback, it's not an ideal situation anyways.
No.
And to be quite honest about the situation, like carrying a 3rd quarterback, I mean, they can run your scout team, but so can a dude on the practice squad. So, I mean, like, what are they really? They don't contribute through special teams unless they're the placeholder, but he's not the placeholder. Aaron Sipos is the placeholder for the kick team.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what he really contributes from a special teams perspective that would make you keep a 3rd quarterback. So, I mean, for me, and I don't think he's going to be as bad this week as he was last week. I think that was him at his worst. I think we saw him at his absolute worst. And I do think there's a version of him that's a lot better than that. And I do think we'll get somewhere closer to the mean with him tonight. I think it'll be, he'll be good, but he won't be great, and he won't be bad. I think he's going to be somewhere, he'll be adequate,
Better so everybody won't be so hard on him anymore. Maybe a little bit more hope, How do you think Flacco's going to do tonight?
I think he's going to do okay, just because I think you're going to get a lot of run from the receivers. And I think the second team offensive line is pretty good. I mean, I'm perceiving what I think will be the second team. So, what I think will be the second team, and I'll just say it, I think it's going to be split reps between Toth and LaRaven Clark at left tackle. And then I think you'll get Sua Pet at left guard. Nate Herbig's going to be your center. Pry will be your right guard, and Jack Driscoll will be your right tackle. That's not we certainly have played with a far worse offensive line starting games than that. So, I mean, I think he'll have fairly accurate, he'll have fairly decent protection. I mean, look, I'm not going to say those guys are,
world beaters.
Or necessarily first team Canada guys, but they're
Right.
good enough. They're respectable. I mean, certainly, look at Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Pittsburgh's second team. Look, shout out T.Y. McGill, shout out Milton Williams. All you can do is execute when a play is presented to you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was an individual effort that won that. I think that was just a really, really bad play on the right side of that offensive line. Then Milton Williams absolutely just crashed down on him because of how bad it was. And then T.Y. McGill cleaned it up with a sack. I think that was more so a dysfunction of the line than it was the individual effort of the players per se. Still got to execute the play. And Milton Williams absolutely started taking 2 offensive linemen and pushing the pocket with them, freeing up another guy to make a play. So, I mean, you got to give him his credit. But at the same time, like, I think that was more of an issue of, like, that's how bad offensive line play can be once you get past team starters.
Right.
I
want to see Marlon play some more too. Marlon, I want to see him play some more too today.
Marlon Tuipulotu. Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I'm a little disappointed in because I knew that there was a risk that he might not be as good as he was presenting himself to be, because anytime you play in the Pac, you got to be a little suspicious of the Pac-12 because sometimes those dudes are just not as good as they want to make you think they are. Let's just be truthful about it, But, man, he was so good against centers, man. I was watching him as a nose, and, man, he was just destroying dudes at the hand fight. Just absolutely destroying people, at the hand fight. And I don't see a lot of strength out of him, and he's supposed to be that guy. He looks like to me as a guy who needs to get a lot stronger to play nose in the NFL. So that concerns me. But I also thought I heard, I could be wrong here, but I thought Milton Williams is actually going to take reps as a 3 technique tonight. So he's going to be a defensive tackle, I thought, tonight. So they played him first game as a D end, and now I think they're going to get, which tells you he's going to be a flex player. He's going to be that flex guy on the defensive line. So I'm excited to see, because Milton Williams, like I said, I loved what I saw against that kid when he played teams that were in his conference. Outside of Marshall, I thought Marshall did a really good job against him. But when he played those lines that were truly talented, top 10, college football lines, the Marshalls, the BYUs, he got beat up a little bit. He got moved definitely got moved out of the hole pretty easily. His gap assignment. So,
Go ahead.
So I'm wondering, hey, like, where is he at? How well is he going to play? I mean, he's going to be playing probably second and third teamers, but these are NFL second and third teamers. So these are still guys that are pretty good in college. So, I mean, like, if he really looks disruptive on the interior as a defensive tackle, it's a good sign.
Yeah. And even for Marlon's defense, I remember on that goal line stance, it seemed like when he was on the goal line punching it in there, Marlon did stand up his guy. It just seemed like the rest of the line was getting collapsed so much that you really couldn't even notice the fact that he was kind of standing up his position.
We were clearly winded. Yeah. Our line was winded, man. You could see it. Like, they had no fight left.
They didn't get rotated out. You know what I'm saying? They stayed. He kept them all in there to see what they got and their souls. I mean,
and I don't like to jump into coaching decisions like that just because I'm not there. I don't get a chance to say or do anything when it comes to that. But it does make me wonder, at what point have you made your point and it's time to rotate in fresh bodies? Like, come on, man.
Right.
Like, come on. You made your point. Let's rotate some dudes in here, man.
Get somebody in there.
Yeah.
We talked about that earlier. We think J-Jaw, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the season started today, J-Jaw will be over Hightower as the 6th receiver.
If they keep 6, and I don't think that's a lock, man. I honestly don't think that's a lock at all. I do think that the staff could simply evaluate the situation and say that Hightower has a higher ceiling than JJ does, even if JJ has clearly been the better performer in camp. I do think that's a possibility. They can go off of ceiling and not current production. I mean, that happens every year. You know what I mean? But yes, currently, I would say that JJ to me is right behind Fulgham, and I think it's very close. So if they kept 6, I would probably say okay. But also acknowledging the fact that Hightower ceiling is higher. They may go ceiling over current production. I still think they would have to explain themselves to the team. Like, you're talking about ceiling and why you justify putting this guy on the roster, but you told us just compete and win. Hey, right, man, So, I mean, I think you'd have some explaining to do there. But ultimately, the biggest question is how much control does Sirianni even have over the roster? I mean, he's got some elements of control, but I mean, how he's going to be involved in the decisions when it comes to some of this stuff. And I think that's a tough decision if you're saying, Howie, this guy has a higher ceiling, and Howie's going, well, We didn't evaluate it that way because this guy was a second-round pick. We felt his ceiling was higher. But I think anyone with eyes knows that Hightower has the higher ceiling.
Yeah, for
You know?
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't realize some people highlight tapes are the opposite players and mad mistakes. Yeah. You know? That's true. That is way
I've been
true,
there, man. I've definitely been on people's highlight reels before.
Right? Yeah, yeah. I've been on both. I've been making people in my highlight reels, and I've also been on the other end of them. You know what I'm saying? I've had some big linebackers come smack me up a couple of times. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was always small, stocky, strong, and fast. That's what I was.
Yeah.
But, there's nothing you can do when you got those 250, 60-pound linebackers that are 6'2", and you try your hardest to run them over, and they just doesn't work out that way for you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
But yeah, I want to see. Oh, that's another thing. Speaking of linebackers, I want to see Mr. Sean Bradley. See what he can do today again. You know what I'm saying? See if he can get out there and make a case. Because how many linebackers you think we're really going to keep? You think there's going to be 4?
No, they're going to keep more than 4.
5?
I would keep 6 personally, just because I think one of those guys is a flex. He's really a rush linebacker, so I mean he's really a defensive end hybrid.
Well, Avery.
So Avery, so I would keep 5 plus Avery personally, but I think the Eagles might be more inclined to just keep 5. I think the real question becomes, can Patrick Johnson leapfrog somebody and make the roster? Ooh. Sean Bradley, they talked highly about Sean Bradley's leadership skills, but he's limited. He's limited as a football player. There's only so much Sean Bradley can do for you. Very instinctual. He plays at a very high football level in terms of his IQ and his understanding of the game. But I do think physically he's limited a little bit. He's a strong guy, but he's not particularly athletic. Patrick Johnson's a different dude. Patrick Johnson, there's something about his athleticism that really stood out in that Pittsburgh game to me. Like, it was like, this dude's a little better than I thought.
Mm-hmm. Is Davion come back yet? Or
I haven't heard anything. I don't think so. I haven't heard anything, though, to say.
Or even Jacoby Stevens? No, huh?
No, Jacoby, I think, still out, unfortunately. I think Jacoby's going to be relegated to the practice squad, probably.
So that means they're going to get him cut first, right? And then get to
he clears waivers, then you can bring him back, basically.
I don't know if he clear waivers, though. You think he
might? I think he will, man. I mean, he was a 7th-round pick. He's been injured. There's not a lot of film out there. You know what I mean? Like, I think he'll clear waivers.
Can you see Jason Huntley making the team?
Possibly. I think it's look, I can't tell you. Well, look, okay, I have to back up because I have to clarify this.
Okay.
I have to put a disclaimer, if you will. The thing is that yes, you have carried 5 backs before, but that's back when you used to use a fullback. That's when fullbacks were a prominent part of the offense, and teams were predominantly 2-back sets, right? So 20, 21, 22, and 23-man sets would have been very dominant for teams. Talking the 90s, early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the modern adaptation of the NFL, so the late Andy Reid era through Doug, Kelly and Doug, I don't recall us ever keeping 5 running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it was very early on in that period.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall us keeping 5 backs. That's the thing. But Huntley, he can be a kick returner, right? He can add to your passing game. It all depends on how you quantify it, right? I'm only going to keep 5 receivers. I'm going to keep 5 running backs because my running backs will supplement the receiving game.
Mm-hmm.
You keep 5 running backs, you better be playing some 2-back sets because I just don't see how you make the numbers work out unless you're going to play a lot of 2-back set. So I mean, possibly, but I wouldn't put money on it. You know what I mean? But if I was the coach, we'd probably be going 5 running backs.
So then it'll be Miles, Gainwell, Sanders, Scott, and Huntley.
So it'd be Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, then Huntley. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that'd be nice.
Maybe they play some funky, crazy crap and change his position to wide receiver and call him the 6th receiver. There's a lot of ways that there's a lot of ways to get around that. A
lot of ways to skin a cat. Well, all right, man. I know you got to get ready for the game, my guy. And much love for coming up on the show again today. Welcome anytime you like, my guy. Tell everybody where they can find you at.
Steve, just look up Gate City Sports Talk, guys. GATE Sports Talk. All right, guys. I appreciate you having me on, man. I really do. I really appreciate you. My man jumped on. He didn't just participate in the comment section, guys. He jumped on the live stream last Saturday with me for a little while he was in the hospital waiting for your fifth child. Fifth child, right? Is that right? Fifth child to be born. Shout out to your wife, because I saw that she was in the comment sections earlier. Congratulations to both of you guys. It's pretty exciting news, man. And I really appreciate you, man, doing that. Like, appreciate you, brother. That's dedicated.
No problem at all, man. I love you guys, man. You guys all inspire me, man. You know, anytime we can talk some good football, man, I'm down to do it. You know, but yeah, she's healthy. She's in there now, so that's really good. You know, the baby girl. You know, and yeah, we're just gonna keep having them babies. You know.
Hey, I grew up in a big household too, man. I used to think like, I think my dad's trying to start a company. He's just trying to get free labor or something, bro.
Right? That's what this is, free labor. You know, when they all hit that 6 and 7 range, you know, you're like, hey, you do this, you do this. Yeah, you got some nice.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's no problem, man. Thank you again for coming out there, and let's go Birds, man. Let's go out there and let's show some things. You know, I want to see Nick Sirianni show a little bit of your cards. You ain't got to give the whole, the whole spread, but let's do a couple of good plays, a couple of plays of different formations or something like that we can get excited for. So, defense too. Maybe keep your base 4-3 defense that you ran last time, but maybe send a linebacker every, so often, or send don't show nothing too exotic, but send somebody, or at least do some line stunts. You know what I'm saying? I want to see something different besides what we see in the first game. Make it a little bit more extreme, and give the fans something to be really excited about. So much love to you guys. Thanks for joining. Please hit that like on the way out. As I always say, fly, Eagles, fly. Until next time, this was Bird Gang Nation Sports Talk. I am Bird Gang 31, and we are out. Peace.
Go Bird.